Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Old Ladies Lift Chat. I am your host, Larnie Mulvey, the Power Lady.
And I'm Chandler Mars, founder and creator of Old Ladies Lift, the premier website, YouTube channel, and Facebook group for older women who lift frickin' heavy.
And today we have one of the amazing members from the Old Ladies Lift Facebook group, Barbara Cheney. So first of all, I want to say welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you. And let's get started. Like, introduce yourself, where you're at, where you're from, what's going on.
Well, I'm Barbara Cheney, and we used to live outside of Nashville, Tennessee, and we moved to the Villages, Florida, New Year's Eve day in 2020. And it's been a long process. But we're here in the Villages. It's a retirement community, 135,000 people. And I train at MVP Gym, and I also work there part-time.
That's wonderful.
I know you worked at a gym. That's cool. That's really cool.
So how long have you been lifting?
Well, I was lifting back in my 30s. That would have been like, I started lifting in 1981. I was playing racquetball at the Colorado Springs Y. I went down for a ball and I didn't come up.
You were lifting in your youth.
I threw out my back, and the chiropractor told me I probably needed to strengthen my back. So I went to the Y, and there was a gal there in the weightlifting area, and she started working with me. And then pretty soon, a gentleman from the women's side came over. His name was James Johnson. And James Johnson said, think you'd be a really good power lifter. So I went over to the men's side and started powerlifting. I was the 1983 novice state champion. And by 1985, we had moved to Arizona, and I was in a meet there. I think my best was a 225 squat, a 115 or 125 bench, and a 325 deadlift. And then I sort of got away from lifting. Arizona was just really hot for me, and got into more swimming. And then I was a computer trainer for the city of Mesa in Mesa, Arizona. So work kind of took over. And then I had children in 1989, 1991. And I had an experience with my second child that I died in. It was a very hard thing. I did recover in recovery room. They had to bring me back.
Oh, goodness.
And for a number of years, I had no desire to exercise. I homeschooled. My kids got into saber fencing when they were 11 and 13. They homeschooled as well, so we could travel the country. And we wound up being really good. They wound up traveling the country and also Europe. So I was traveling with them, setting up stuff for our fencing team with the United States Fencing, and traveled Europe. And they wound up in World Cup events. The older one is now an international referee and coach. The other one is a drone pilot out in LA.
Oh, goodness.
So there's, two different parts of the country. But in 2009, our older son was going to Penn State to be inducted in the Army ROTC. I stepped off a curb and tore cartilage in my knee, which later led to a knee replacement in 2014 when I fell down some stairs. And then in 2016, I was leading a boot camp in my driveway back in Tennessee, and shattered my elbow, fractured my left arm. It's called a monteggia fracture. And the doctor said that he never wanted to go into that arm again, but he did have to about a year later. But I couldn't have my left knee replaced, which I needed it because the bone was not coming back in my left arm. And so I found a trainer, a powerlifting coach who had been powerlifting for over 30 years. And he began to rebuild me, and he put me on a product called MSM plus C. I had bone rebuilt in my arm within 2 months. I got the left knee replacement. That was 2018. They had to go put bone from my hip in my arm, and it didn't take.
Oh my gosh.
But the MSM plus C did take. The doctors were total shock. What are you doing? I said, I'm taking this stuff. Anyway, I rebuilt my arm, and So my coach said, would you like to get back to powerlifting? I said, absolutely. My whole left side was very weak. I mean, if you looked at my muscles, you go, man, your right leg, I mean, everything is just weaker. So I said, yeah. So he worked with me from all of 2018, about July. And then I got back in my first powerlifting meet the day after I turned 69, December, it was December 8th, 2019. And I was the only woman my age, like quite a bit. I was up in Kentucky. I squatted a 115. I benched a 77 and I deadlifted 220. And I remember looking at that deadlift going, the last time I did this was about 40 freaking years ago. I can't believe I'm out here. The hardest thing for me was wearing the one-piece onesie. I hadn't worn it. I gained like 30. But everybody loved my socks because they were quite dazzly. And people came up to my husband and said they had videotaped me and they wanted to send it to him. I had women say, because of you, I want to try this. I mean, I was floored, you know. I was just amazed that I would impact anybody like that. So I started lifting, and then my next meet was February of the following year. There were 2 old guys and me who were the olders. We called ourselves the assisted living team. We had a really good time. So my best squat in the meet now is in the 198 pluses of 203.9. My best bench, because of my arm, I hit at 135 about a year and a half ago, but my arm is sort of deteriorated, and the best I can really do so far in the meets is about a 105. But my deadlift is 286.6. That was, I did at the senior games this past December here in Florida. So I'm looking, my next meet is going to be, there's been the federation that we've been in, there's been some change. Some people have gone to Powerlifting America, and I have lifted in NASA for a few years. So I'm going to go to the NASA Natural Nationals, which is going to be out in Oklahoma City, February 19th and 20th. And then my meet after that, I have planned to go in May to Springfield, Ohio for the Ohio State meet. I have a number of friends there. And then in October, I'll go back to Oklahoma for the NASA Masters Nationals. That's the one I'm really targeting this year. So that's where I am.
Well, that's an amazing story.
I'm like in shock. I'm kind of like, I don't have my meets planned like you do. Like you have lined up. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm gonna do tomorrow.
Well, part of it is because I work at the gym a couple of days a week, 5 a.m. till 10 a.m. in the morning, running the front desk with some other people. And then I'm on call if they need, help. If somebody needs a replacement, I do that. And then we train for our powerlifting team is Monday, Thursday, Friday from 2 to 4. We warm up to 2:30. Jimmy comes out at 2:30. We all stand around. He tells us what we're going to do. Sandy Simmons, who's in our group, and Debbie Bookman and Kay Carver, they're all with me. So that's been a good thing to have.
So you have an actual lifting team where you're at.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
When I started, it was just Coach Spence and me at my gym back in Tennessee. And so to pay for my training, I trained women. I trained, ladies groups, one-on-one training. I really enjoyed that. But it was just Spence and me. Mm-hmm. And I might train at 8 in the morning, 4 in the afternoon. We just whatever we could work out. Here it's with Jimmy, 2 to 4, Monday, Thursday, Friday. But if we need to flex, we can. But it's good. Like yesterday, we deadlifted. We had 3 different bars, 3 different abilities. And if you have to miss something, Jimmy is very good at, okay, come in tomorrow at 10. I can meet you at 10. Whatever. So, but it is different having a team. The best part is you don't have to load the bar yourself.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, somebody else can help load the bar. Whereas before, Spence would say, okay, back in Tennessee, Okay, let's load this up to whatever, 235, 245. You got to do all the loading with them. Whereas here, you've got people to help you, and then before we do accessories, we put it all away. But it is nice having a team.
Oh, I
encourage
can
you.
imagine. That's something I've always
Yeah.
wanted to have a team of particularly older women, So when I was
Yeah.
training with my coach, I was the only woman training. There were other women in the gym who were doing lifting and exercise type things,
Mhm.
but I was the only one training and competing. And I usually had to train with the men, which is fine. The guys are great, but I always felt it would be nice to have older women or just women in general to train with.
And Sandy, having Sandy and Kate, we also have another gal. She doesn't compete. Karen, Sandy and I are always kidding her. You would be great. You need no. But she comes in and squats and benches, deadlifts. Her husband comes in too. And so yesterday on my bar, it was two guys and me. And I did miss Sandy. But it is really good to have older people lifting with you. I turned to one of them the other day. I said, "Are you okay? How's your blood pressure?" He looked at us, we all keep watch for each other. But somebody tells you, "Hey, I'm on new blood pressure medicine," you want to keep an eye out for. Didn't have that problem when I was in my 30s, obviously. But it's interesting because MVP is a very large gym. And we have a lot of clients coming in and they watch us. And
I'm sure they do. Yeah.
Come over and say, "How do you do that?" And we get to talk to them and tell them what we do. We've been written up in the paper. One of our team members, John LaFlamme, has world record for men 70 and squat. It's over 500 pounds.
Wow.
Oh yeah. So we have some really good lifters on our team. Not everybody, does squats, but all of them will bench and deadlift. So it has been a change for me. Like I said, I'm used to having just a coach with me, but having a team is different. We have team shirts. Our team is called Only the Strong, Masters Powerlifting.
Oh, I like that.
We all have matching shirts.
That's cool. And there's several of you that compete, so you're at the meets together, which I imagine has to be very cool and supportive and helpful.
Well, at our last two meets, we were the only team there, and so we won the team trophy.
There you go. That's what I always said. When I was first starting out and I was still doing CrossFit and all, I noticed how few teams there were at the meets. And I always tried to encourage folks at the CrossFit gym who could enter a powerlifting meet relatively easily because they were all lifting on a regular basis, that we should go and win the team competition. Because it's just a matter of having the numbers, particularly if you have older members, because of the way things are scored. Right. There's very few older people competing. And we had older members in the CrossFit gym, but I could never convince enough of them to go to a meet, to do it, because I don't know, they just weren't into it. CrossFit and powerlifting are two different things. Yeah. But I always thought it'd be fun to just go win meets,
Well, I have a niece who does CrossFit, and we were watching the videos actually of the internet. I think it was International CrossFit up in Madison. She showed me yesterday, and she was very impressed with what we do in powerlifting. She said it's really different. And people have asked me, what's the hardest thing, or like when you hit your first meet, what was the hardest thing? The hardest thing for me as an older lifter, like I said earlier, was coming out in that onesie and everybody looking at you. And the second thing is, they don't know how old you are, but if they, the announcer says, "Well, she just turned 69 yesterday," and everybody's like, "Oh my God," and you have these young people loading your weights. And I think people are used to men being that age doing that sort of thing, but not as many women.
Right.
Right. And I've had people come up to me. I need to tell you this. When I went to that meet in Kentucky, my first one in 69, I was treated like I was a rock star.
Well, there you go.
The owner gave me a big hug. He said, we are so, I mean, he just took pictures of me. I still have the pictures. People came up to me and just were so impressed that this, as an older person, I was competing. And as I've gotten older and older, my last meet that I went to back in Tennessee was April of this past year. And when they were giving out awards, this father came up to me, a dad came up to me and said, my daughter would like to talk to you. I was expecting somebody, maybe 6, his daughter's college age. She came over, she said, Miss Barbara, you are my favorite lifter.
Oh, how sweet.
Thank you. And I said, could I ask you why? And she said, because I've never seen a woman strong like you.
Oh
my gosh.
That's telling. And I think that's part of the reason I started Old Ladies Lift, because I haven't seen a lot of strong women in my life until I began lifting. And I thought, we need to highlight that. We need to highlight that women just don't, wither and die once they hit a certain age. In fact, I think that's when we peak in strength. Because of life that you've been through to that point, and you survived it, and now you can finally devote some time to yourself. And that's important to highlight that and show younger women that their life isn't over once they have children, or once they turn 40 or 50 or whatever the new age is to be old. That it's perhaps just beginning.
I think the most interesting thing for me was when I fell and shattered my arm. They put a big plate in it, and they sent my, I couldn't move my arm at all. My arm was 10 days after the surgery, my arm was frozen.
Oh, wow.
They thought I had nerve damage. They couldn't get a pencil in my fingers. They put my arm on a pillow, and I carried it into the x-ray room. And I remember thinking, how am I going to come back from this? Because I couldn't move the arm at all. And they sent my x-rays to my little town of White Bluff, Tennessee, to a guy who was an expert, apparently, in monteggia fractures. And I called him up, and I talked to him on the phone. And he said, I am an expert in what you have, but we don't take your insurance. I said, okay, what do I do? He said, well, because I'm an expert in what you have and you need me, I'm going to take you on my own time.
Oh, wow. That was nice of him.
It took me for 1.5 years after both surgeries. And I remembered there was only one time that I ever broke down and cried. I had to do all these different things, like pick these clips and turn. I also injured my wrist, so it doesn't turn all the way, twist it. And at the end of 1.5 years, he said, I think you're done. But there was one day where the pain was so bad that I went out in the car afterwards and just broke down on my towel and cried.
Oh my goodness.
And my husband let me cry. Are you okay? Yep. There's still tomorrow. And at the end of that time, Jeff Gandy looked at me and he said, I need to let you know something that I didn't really think you could recover, because I have a lot of range of motion in this arm. I mean, to be able to do this after you have a monteggia fracture is that is amazing. And I can reach on the back. And he said, I need to let you know that I didn't think when you came in after I saw your x-rays that you would ever get back to where you are. I said, oh, really? He said, nope. And he told me the only thing that kept him going was me.
Wow.
But that I was determined to get back as far as I could. And my arm doctor, when I saw him a week later, he said, you are in the top 1% of the 1% of ever recovering from this type of fracture.
That is impressive.
You can't get any better. And I told Jeff, I said, well, good grief, I thought it was you encouraging me. He said, no, it's you encouraging me. So I decided that Jeff Gandy and Dr. Kutzkovich had put so much in me that I was going to do everything I could to keep this arm strong, and to keep my knees strong, and to keep my body strong in the honor of those who worked with me.
And you've done that. And you've done that, and you've inspired others to pursue this, and maybe not just powerlifting, but pursue strength training and to become stronger as you get older, and to persevere through these various injuries.
Well, my motto is the Navy SEALs motto: not dead, can't quit. I want to die with like a 350-pound deadlift in front of me, and I don't get it, and they add on more weight, and they say, now call 911.
Yes, I've seen that meme. I was just thinking of that same thing. You know, if you're going to die in the gym, they've got to add more weight.
Add more.
Add more weight to whatever you're doing. Yeah, that's important. Well, I think what's been wonderful for me with this group is seeing women like yourself. I mean, I'm 54, almost 55. So I have another 15, 20 years. And it's cool that I have another 15, 20 years, and I still have the opportunity to improve across time, no matter what injuries or what life throws at me. And I think when I began this, I thought, you know, I only have so much time left. You know, there's, you know, it's going to be diminishing returns at some point. You know, I may be do well for the next couple of years, but at some point, my old aging body is going to catch up to me and say, okay, you're done, and you're not going to get improve anymore. But I see women like you and Terry and all these others here into their 60s and 70s, and I'm thinking, yes, that means I can do that as well. And so I think it's very heartening for me, and I suspect other women that have not yet begun this journey as well, that they can lift heavy, even if they're just starting in their 50s and 60s, which many of them are.
Well, Terry and I and Vicky, we were in a meet a couple of years ago in Tennessee, and my coach was the coach for the three of us. We had a great time, and Vicky is going to be lifting in the Georgia USAPL meet in February, and Terry and I are going to be lifting in the NASA Nationals together. So we will.
Very good. Yeah, I know Vicky and Terry are kind of going head to head here with the records.
Yeah.
Which is cool to watch.
I think the thing about, you know, you look at Terry, she said so many things in her health, and to have a chiropractor for your friend, your coach.
Yeah.
You know, that's, you know, I think that's just real. That is determination. And, you know, people have said, well, you're not an athlete. I think people have this vision of an athlete as someone who, you know, is maybe a size 8 or 6 and runs fast and they're not older.
Definitely not older. And yes, I
agree. Not stronger. You know, I'm the oldest person working at our gym, as far as I know.
Let alone working out.
Yeah. And it's just neat to see women walk up to me in the locker room and say, I'm so impressed with what you and Sandy, you know, and Kay do. Kay does triathlons. She doesn't squat, but she does deadlifts and bench. And to see women older, you know, accomplished like this and not giving up, it is exciting. I go to the balance class, you know. I mean, I can deadlift 286 pounds, but I can't stand on my left foot.
Yeah, I've gotten quite a bit better since we've been standing on the balance board. But yeah, I have the same problem on my left side because I have long-standing injuries, but I'm weaker, and I have no balance on that side either. So any of the you know, when you do lunges, when I'm on that leg, it's like you know, yeah. So
a lot of times when I go to, and in the villages, you don't have a male slot or a male box. You go to the male center for your area. You meet people, and you have to step up the curb and you have to step down the curb. So usually I go get the male after I've lifted, like, 4 in the afternoon. So I go to the curb and I practice 5 step ups to the curb, step up, down with the left leg and up, down with the right leg. I get the male, turn around, and then I practice the harder one, which is step down 5,
Yeah.
So I'm not too bad stepping up, but stepping down is.
Yeah, I find that as well. Going
hard.
down as well on different things. Stepping up is fine. And that's the exercises I don't like either. So lunges, I don't like. I have no problem doing step ups, because stepping up is not a problem. Lunging down is difficult. Yeah.
Well, I think the other thing I learned, you learn practical movement with balance is really important. When I had my knee replaced in 2014, the first thing I did was make sure I got the raised toilet seat thing, so I didn't have to sit down so far. And my coach was telling me for rehab, now in 2018, you've got to work the upper body because that lower body, is
there you go.
I learned, and when I taught my ladies in Tennessee, they would say, I want to take a bath, but I can't get up and out of the bathtub.
Yeah.
And when I shattered my elbow, I found
it's
out
very difficult.
So I worked,
even if you don't have those injuries, I have found, we remodeled our bath a couple of years ago and put a much longer bath, but it turned out to be much narrower. And so there's no way it's a tricep dip getting in and out, and you have to be very careful not to slip.
Well, when I finally worked up the courage, I'll say people are going to laugh. I couldn't get out. So my husband had to pull me out, and he says, "You were the beach baby whale."
The first time I used it, I almost had to call. I mean, I was like, "How the heck am I going to get out of this?"
Well, I figured roll to my left arm and onto my knees, and then I got up. And I still take a bubble bath, and I still get out the same way.
But it is all of those basic movements in life that you do every day. You forget that they all require balance and muscle tone. If you lose those things, they become very, very difficult to maintain and build strength as we get older, so that we can function. Otherwise, you can't function. You end up, having others to take care of you, and that I don't want that to happen.
And I was talking to someone the other day in the gym, and they said they noticed that it doesn't just sort of stop, it just sort of ebbs and drifts away.
Yeah.
Then you realize what you lost. It doesn't go away quickly.
Yeah, it's very insidious.
Sort of drains away. And the next thing you realize, hey, I can't do, but I thought I used to be able to do this, a couple of weeks ago or a month ago, and now I can't. And people think that's a part of aging. It's
disuse, or in 48, 47, 48, somewhere in there, and just randomly started CrossFit. Now, I had always been a swimmer in class. I done all class and kettlebells. 15-pound kettlebell felt heavy. I was afraid that because my grip was so weak that I would throw it across the room. And I remember the 15-pound starter bars, the trainer bars.
Yep.
Those felt really, really heavy. And I think, what in the world? I used to be able to lift things, and 15 pounds over my head is killing me. Event. The first time I started deadlifting, I thought 65 pounds was heavy. I mean, and here I thought I was in shape, or I was still relatively young and healthy-ish. I shouldn't have been falling apart at 47, 48, but apparently I was already. And so imagine, had I not started, or had we not started these things, and then, the decline across time would have been quite severe, I think.
Well, for me, I didn't mention this, but I also have spondylosis. My 4's on my 5.
Oh, so you're just a mess.
Yeah.
you're an absolute mess.
When I met my Tennessee chiropractor in 2000, at the end of 2018, he was a good friend of my coach. I was having some back issues as my coach was trying to work with me, and so he took my X-rays, and then he met me. Well, one of his lab people took my X-rays, and then he met me, And he looked at the x-rays of my back and he looked at me and he said, you don't match your x-rays. What have you been doing all your life? So I told him, I played racquetball, I've run motorcycles in competition, I skied, all this stuff. And he said, well, that's what's kept you alive, because looking at your x-rays, you have the x-rays of a person that should be walking in here with a walker and barely able to walk. I said, you're kidding. He said, I am not kidding you. He said, and I know who your coach is, because he's a good friend. So I'm going to tell you what I want you to do. Keep lifting. So in 2020, I went and got a bone density test and said I had osteopenia. The lab tech was so impressed with my lift, she told this doctor walking by, and I didn't know him, he or me. So she told him what I was deadlifting and squatting, 204 pounds ago. And he said, well, what's your test show? And she said, well, she's a little low. He said, oh my God. And he began to scream right in my face. I was going to be suffering fractures. I was going to be, he just read me the riot act.
Oh, goodness.
And he left, and she said, I'm so sorry. I said, that's okay. But I'm going to take these records and I'm going to take them to my family doctor, to my chiropractor, to my arm doctor, to my leg doctor, and to my arm guy. And I want to see what they say. And they all said the same thing, especially my chiropractor. Keep lifting. Don't pay any attention to what he said.
Well, that's how you build bone density, is by lifting. I mean,
yeah.
What did he expect you to do? Sit around and do nothing and just let it decay?
Yeah. Well, and then my coach got me last year doing Dr. Stewart Mcgill's exercises.
Yeah, I've been doing those a lot lately.
And about Dr. Stewart Mcgill, I bought all his books. I definitely, people say, oh, it doesn't hurt your back. I said, my back hasn't bothered me at all since I've been doing, I just do them. I get up at 3 a.m. and I do 20 minutes of my McGills and go to work.
Oh, so I do the 3 before I squat and deadlift. So twice a week. I don't do it every day. I'm not as dedicated as you.
I also do the sciatica flossing thing that he talks about. And I'm fine. I haven't had any issues at all.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting straighter as I do that, because I'm crooked. And that's the key. I was at the chiropractor the other day, or last week, I don't remember when, and he noticed that my hips were a little less twisted than they normally are. So I guess that's a good thing.
You're mentioning that in the videos, and I just want to say one thing about you. I am so thankful that you put this group together. I'd love to read everybody's stuff and what they're doing, and how people have, no matter what the numbers are. And people say, I can't tell my friends, but I can come on this website and I can tell all of you. That's how we all feel.
Oh, so you're welcome. I did it for me too, because I wanted to be able to talk to people about this, and I wanted to see other women, and really one of those Facebook memories came up here recently. I should have shared it with the group. It was my original ponderings for the group, before I had started it. And the gist of it was I had been looking for powerlifting videos. This was 3 or 4 years ago. And everything that was coming up was big, hairy men or skinny, itty bitty little women. And I'm like, none of this fits me. That is not my body type. That's, that's before I knew about some of the older women lifters, but not older. But it's certainly they have have dominated the market on lifting videos, those two populations. And I was very disappointed, and I thought, gosh, we got to start something that highlights older women. And my idea originally is that we need to put up training videos for older women, and kind of the faux pas in the gym when you're older. I've never quite gotten that all together, because that part was my daughter's idea, because I as an older lifter and as someone who seems to be apparently very uncoordinated at times, it's kind of funny, some of the things you go through in the gym. And I thought this would be great. And maybe at some point we will do that. But I think in lieu of that, we have a fabulous group. The website Old Ladies Lift is wonderful for the rest of the world to see what we're doing. The Facebook group is, the audience should know by now, is private. So you have to be a woman, you have to be over the age of 40, and you have to be lifting or interested in lifting. And that's all, those are the only requirements, but we still get men who try to get in the group, and we still get women younger women, but we get women who say they're not interested in lifting, but want to join the group. Should finish this up. So let me see if I can attempt to do the closing here. I am Chandler Mars from Old Ladies Lift. This has been another episode of Old Ladies Lift Chat. Be sure, she's laughing at me. Be sure to subscribe, like, join our Facebook group. Check out our website, buy some Old Ladies Lift t-shirts and everything else. And once we get our technical issues settled, Laurie may be back at some point. Right now she's in and out. But we've had the pleasure of interviewing Barbara Cheney. And so I'd like to just tell everybody in the audience, thank you for listening, and check all of our things out, and talk to you all next week.